I'm 30 years old, and I'm currently 2 months pregnant with my first child and engaged to my fiancé of 3 years, James, who is 31. For a little background, when I was 15 years old, my parents had my baby brother. 5 years later, when I was 20 and Matt was 5, my parents and Matt got into an accident while driving home, resulting in their death. After the accident, I was completely devastated, but I had to pull myself together to be there for my brother. The following month, I buried my parents, and with the help of my aunt and uncle, I applied for guardianship of my brother. It took about 7 months before I was approved. I had to get a stable job and income, which I did, and proper housing for me and my brother, which I achieved by using money from my inheritance to buy a house and other necessities. In the end, I obtained guardianship of my brother. It was hard at first working while looking after my brother. It's easier now, but there are still ups and downs. But I would do it all over again for my brother. I met my fiancé when I was 27 at a gathering, and we just clicked. After 3 months of dating, he proposed to me. At first, I said no because I still had my brother to take care of. But after thinking, I said yes, and we agreed to wait until we were financially stable. In the beginning of this year, we wanted to get married since I was pregnant because I didn't want my baby to be born out of wedlock. We started the preparations, and the wedding is happening in October. But from what happened last Saturday night, it looks like there isn't going to be a wedding. There were many issues where we fought and resolved. For example, the wedding date. The date my fiancé wanted for the wedding was on my brother's birthday, which was a problem for me. I wanted to throw my brother a big party because he is turning 14, so I offered the week after, in which we argued. And he even ran to his mother to try to convince me. But I stood my ground, stating my brother's birthday is important to me and him. There was a little more fighting, but we ended up coming to a resolution. Then there were the roles I wanted my brother to play in my wedding. At first, I offered my brother to be his best man, but he said he wanted his best friend. I said okay. Then I suggested him to be the ring bearer. He would hold the rings on the little pillow and bring it up to us. But James said he wanted his nephew. I said okay and left it. On Saturday morning, I was watching this TikTok video where the bride asked her male best friend to be her man of honor, and I thought it was sweet, so I decided to bring it up to him. When he came home, I was in the kitchen while my brother was at a sleepover at his friend's house that Saturday night. As he entered, I sat and said, "I have the perfect role for Matt." "What is that?" Him. I thought he could be my man of honor, and then both wedding parties can come out as couples, or they can come out as singles. Me, what? Him, man of honor, or I will call it my brother of honor. It would be lovely. Me. But I thought you wanted my sister to be your maid of honor, so that can't work. Him. I never agreed to this, and what about my brother? I want him to play some role in my wedding. Me. I was thinking he could be a guest and sit in the rows. Him, I was completely shocked. I wanted my brother to be in my wedding and not some side guest. I didn't know what to say. He wanted to put my brother on the sidelines. His whole family was playing some part in the wedding, and most of my bridesmaids were his cousins. Only 2 were close friends, but he couldn't grant me this. I stopped what I was doing and told him no. It was my wedding too, and I wanted my brother to be my man of honor. He started saying that his sister was better and my brother would be a guest, and he didn't want children in the wedding parties. I completely lost it and started arguing with him from one thing to the next. Since Saturday, he hasn't come home, only sending his brother to pick up some of his belongings. His mother and sister have been blowing up my phone, saying I'm a selfish woman and that it shouldn't matter if my brother is a guest. The last time they called was Wednesday night, and I went crazy on both of them using language I'm not proud of. But I ended the call with, "Yes, my brother is more important than him and this wedding if it's happening, and I will never put him in front of Matt, so I'm effing sorry and let James contact me to talk things out." Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. What your brother can do is basically take over the father of the bride duties. My grandfather died years ago, and my father gave away my aunt and had a brother-sister dance. But you seem to have a bigger problem in that your fiancé is trying to phase your brother out of your life. He sounds like an evil stepfather, and his family sounds like they figured since your parents are out of the picture, it gives them free rein to do whatever they want. Before you get married, the two of you need to talk about what things will be like with your brother in the future. Comment 2. After 3 months of dating, he proposed. This was already a red flag that should have given you pause about him. Then, all of the other shoot, your soon-to-be ex, STBX, is jealous of your brother and has planned to cancel him from his life after the wedding. I'd be 100% rethinking having a kid with someone like this. He will be jealous of the baby and thinking up ways to destroy that kid's self-esteem, place in the family, and more. Now for the update. Thanks for all the comments from the last post. So after James left, I was a mess. I didn't know what to do. I was angry, hurt, and confused. I spent the next few days trying to focus on work and taking care of Matt, but it was hard. I kept thinking about the wedding and how everything seemed to be falling apart. On Thursday, I decided to take a day off work to clear my head. I went for a long walk and tried to think about what I really wanted. By the time I got home, I had made up my mind. I was going to call James and try to talk things out. When I called him, he didn't answer, so I left a message asking him to meet me at a coffee shop near our house. He finally agreed, and we met on Friday afternoon. The conversation was tense at first, but I told him how I felt about the whole situation. I explained that Matt was my family, and that I wanted him to be a part of our wedding. James listened, but he didn't seem to understand. He kept saying that his family had certain expectations and that he didn't want to disappoint them. We went back and forth for a while, but eventually we reached a compromise. James agreed to let Matt be my brother of honor, but he insisted that his sister still be the maid of honor. It wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it was better than nothing. We decided to move forward with the wedding plans, but things still felt off between us. Over the next few weeks, we tried to get back to normal, but it was difficult. James was distant, and I could tell he was still upset about the whole situation. I was also dealing with a lot of stress from work and the pregnancy. One day, I came home to find Matt sitting on the couch looking upset. When I asked him what was wrong, he told me that some kids at school had been teasing him about the wedding. They said that James didn't really want him there and that he was just a burden. I was furious. I couldn't believe that James's family had been talking about our private issues in front of other people. I called James and told him what had happened. He was apologetic, but I could tell he was more concerned about his family's reputation than about Matt's feelings. This was a huge red flag for me. I started to wonder if I was making a mistake by marrying him. I decided to take a step back and really think about what I wanted for my future and for Matt's future. Around this time, I also started having some complications with my pregnancy. I was put on bed rest for a week, which gave me a lot of time to think. I realized that I needed to put my health and my baby first. I also needed to make sure that Matt was happy and well taken care of. I decided to postpone the wedding until after the baby was born. When I told James, he was upset, but he agreed that it was the best thing to do. During this time, I also started to reflect on my past and how it had shaped me. I thought about my parents and how they had always put family first. I remembered how they had always been there for me and Matt, no matter what. I realized that I needed to do the same for Matt and my baby. I needed to be strong and make the right decisions for my family. One night, while I was lying in bed, I started to think about my relationship with James. I realized that there had been a lot of red flags from the beginning. He had always been more concerned about his family's opinions than about my feelings. He had always tried to control the situation and make decisions for me. I started to wonder if I was really happy with him, or if I was just trying to make things work because I didn't want to be alone. I decided to talk to my aunt and uncle about everything. They had always been there for me and had helped me through some of the toughest times in my life. When I told them about my concerns, they were supportive and understanding. They reminded me that I needed to do what was best for me and my family. They also offered to help with the wedding plans and to support me in any way they could. After talking to them, I felt a lot better. I realized that I didn't have to go through this alone. I had a support system, and I needed to lean on them. I also realized that I needed to have an honest conversation with James about our future. I needed to know if he was really committed to me and my family, or if he was just trying to please his own family. When I finally sat down with James, I told him everything that had been on my mind. I told him about my concerns and my fears. I told him that I needed to know if he was really committed to us, or if he was just trying to make his family happy. He was quiet for a long time, and I could tell he was struggling with his own feelings. Finally, he admitted that he had been trying to please his family and that he hadn't been thinking about what was best for us. This was a turning point for us. We decided to go to couples counseling to work on our issues and to make sure that we were both on the same page. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. We started to communicate better and to really listen to each other. We also started to make decisions together rather than letting his family dictate our lives. As we worked through our issues, I also started to learn more about James's past. He told me about his childhood and how his parents had always been very controlling. He had always felt like he had to live up to their expectations and that he had never been able to make his own decisions. This helped me to understand why he had been acting the way he had. It also made me realize that we both had a lot of baggage that we needed to work through. In the end, we decided to move forward with the wedding, but on our own terms. We agreed to have a small, intimate ceremony with just our closest friends and family. We also decided to wait until after the baby was born to have a big celebration. This took a lot of pressure off of us and allowed us to focus on what was really important. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for kicking out my husband's deadbeat brother and telling my mother-in-law to take him in herself? My husband, 32-year-old male, and I, 29-year-old female, purchased his grandparents' estate after both grandparents passed away. He did not inherit it. The family chose to sell the entire estate without claiming or removing any property. The estate was left to the family to receive equal shares amongst 2 children and 4 grandchildren, including my husband. The family chose to sell and receive the money in equal shares. My husband and I chose to purchase the estate. My brother-in-law, 33-year-old male, was living in the house as his grandparents had agreed to help him get on his feet after the breakup with his child's mother. He has substance abuse issues and has been unemployed since the birth of his child. His child's mother supported him before they broke up a year ago. We agreed to allow him to stay if he contributed to the monthly bills and got up to care for his child and his pets, rather than leaving that responsibility to whoever was awake home. And if no one was awake home, his 3-year-old was left unattended. He refused. I told him he needed to move out, and he refused to move out. I made it clear it was not an option. I packed all of his and his child's things and moved them out of the bedroom he was staying in to the garage. My husband's family then informed me that was not my place and I have no right. His mother showed up unannounced to our house to find I had cleaned out other rooms in the house, and she and 2 other family members informed me I would not be going through, moving, or getting rid of anything in the home as it belongs to their parents, grandparents, and it was not my place. I responded by saying they were welcome to ask for anything specific they regret selling with the estate, but this is my home and I will do whatever I want. They asked that I give them time to come and go through things themselves, to which I said no. If it is not garbage, it will be placed in storage until everything has been gone through, and my husband has kept what he wants. The rest will be sold or donated. At that time, they are free to go through things. I explained that they would not be contacting any other person who purchased the estate, and it is ridiculous they feel comfortable contacting me with demands. After I refused to acknowledge their feelings, they attempted to have my husband confront me and for him to stop allowing me to be so disrespectful. My husband's response, "I cannot control her, and this is our home." Am I the jerk? To add, my brother-in-law is on state assistance, so the Department of Family Services is already aware of their situation. All involved grandparents, brother-in-law's mother, child's mother's parents, are aware of the situation as well. When the child's mother spoke with us, she stated she works, the baby has always been with dad, and dad has custody, so what is she supposed to do? The child's mother also has substance abuse issues. Both parents are alcoholics and use tetrahydrocannabinol substances, which are legal in this state. We cannot confirm if other substances are involved. My brother-in-law moved in about 3 months prior to both grandparents being gone. The estate was in probate and on the market, combined time for 9 months, and we paid market price, no family discount. My husband lived with his grandparents from 7 years old until he was 27 years old when we moved in together. 1 day a week, we had dinner with his grandparents at their home to check on them and spend time. The rest of the family live in other towns 30 minutes to an hour away. My husband works outside of the home, and I work at home. We also have 3 children. My 12-year-old child from a previous relationship of our own who need to have their own space in our home. Almost forgot. We kept my brother-in-law's pets, as he is unable to care for them, and offered to have the child stay with us while the parents decide what to do. Both parents said no. I do not agree with the family dynamics of my husband's family. That's not to say I don't like them, but they enable one another and their child, my husband included, to act irresponsibly and irrationally. They had 9 months to claim items they wanted, and after we purchased, they had 45 days to go through things. Again, anything that is not literally garbage or unusable or in need of extensive repair is in storage to be gone through for sale and donation. Now for an update, my husband contacted the estate attorney, and I contacted the sales attorney. We purchased the estate anonymously to avoid this situation. I was unaware of that. The family has no legal right to any property and was informed of that when we purchased the property. So the family sold all property without the knowledge that we, the family, purchased it, and they could potentially reclaim anything. They have continued to demand I not go through or remove any property, and I have continued to throw trash out and place other items in storage. I have taken the advice of many commenters to sell back the items the family is asking/demanding back. We paid for the property and items. They can purchase the items back with the money we paid for said items they want. Upon purchase, we did not continue the rent-free agreement for my brother-in-law, and he was evicted prior to purchase. The agreement to allow him to stay after we purchased required a rental agreement for utilities, and the understanding he would be responsible for his child and pets. When he refused the new agreement, no eviction was needed as it was a property sale, with more than a 30-day notice. Last update, we purchased the estate for $400,000 rounding down, so yes, it cost us. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You have to do the whole security thing now. Cameras, change the locks. Who knows who has keys? It's a shame because it could have been simple, but some people just never try. But now they have messed up. Plan to ask for money. $25 for the dining room set, whatever. Everything was bought and paid for by you and your husband. Just keep saying it. It's our home. Not the idiot. Comment 2. Buying a furnished house as is after a lifetime of junk has been acquired is not for the faint of heart. I assume there were several months in which the executor could have gone into the house and removed items, or there are estate companies that will do so for a fee. They didn't. It's yours now, not the idiot. Now for the update. Thanks for reading the last post. So 3 days ago, things took a turn for the worse. My brother-in-law showed up at our house, clearly under the influence, demanding to be let back in. He was yelling and causing a scene, which woke up our kids and scared them. My husband tried to calm him down, but it was no use. We had to call the police to get him to leave. This incident really shook me up, and I started to worry about the safety of our family. My husband and I had a long talk that night about what to do next. We both agreed that we couldn't let this continue, but we were torn about how to handle it. My husband felt guilty about his brother's situation, but I was more concerned about our kids and their well-being. The next day, my mother-in-law called, furious about what had happened. She accused us of being heartless and not caring about family. She even threatened to take legal action to get my brother-in-law back into the house. This was the last straw for me. I told her that if she wanted to help her son, she could take him in herself. She hung up on me, and I haven't heard from her since. My husband was upset about the argument, but he understood why I said what I did. He admitted that his family had always enabled his brother's behavior, and it was time for tough love. Later that day, I received a call from the Department of Family Services. They were concerned about my brother-in-law's child and wanted to do a welfare check. I explained the situation and offered to take the child in temporarily, but they said they needed to follow protocol and investigate further. This added another layer of stress to an already tense situation. My husband and I spent the rest of the day discussing our options and trying to come up with a plan. We knew we had to protect our family, but we also didn't want to abandon his brother's child. On the third day, my husband received a call from the estate attorney. Apparently, my mother-in-law had contacted him, trying to find a loophole to get my brother-in-law back into the house. The attorney assured us that we were in the clear legally, but it was still unsettling to know that she was going to such lengths. My husband decided to confront his mother and set some boundaries. He drove to her house and had a long, heated conversation with her. When he came back, he looked exhausted but relieved. He told me that his mother finally agreed to back off, but she was still very upset. That evening, we had a family meeting with our kids to explain what was going on. We wanted them to understand why things were so chaotic and reassure them that we were doing everything we could to keep them safe. It was a tough conversation, but I think it helped them feel more secure. My 12-year-old was especially worried about her cousins and asked a lot of questions about what would happen to them. I tried to be as honest as possible without scaring her. In the midst of all this, I started to reflect on my own family dynamics. Growing up, my parents were very strict and didn't tolerate any kind of irresponsible behavior. I realized that this was a big part of why I was so adamant about not enabling my brother-in-law. I didn't want my kids to grow up thinking that it was okay to make bad choices and expect others to clean up the mess. My husband, on the other hand, had a much more lenient upbringing, which explained why he struggled with setting boundaries with his family. As we were dealing with all these issues, I couldn't help but think about the future. What if my brother-in-law didn't get his act together? What if his child ended up in foster care? These thoughts kept me up at night, and I knew we had some tough decisions ahead. My husband and I talked about possibly seeking full custody of his brother's child if things didn't improve. It was a daunting prospect, but we both agreed that it might be the best option for the child's well-being. In the meantime, we decided to install security cameras around the house for added peace of mind. We also reached out to a family therapist to help us navigate these complicated family dynamics. It was clear that we needed professional guidance to make the best decisions for everyone involved. My husband started attending support group meetings for families dealing with substance abuse, which seemed to help him cope with the guilt and stress. As for my brother-in-law, he hasn't contacted us since the police incident. I heard from a mutual friend that he's staying with a buddy in a nearby town. I hope he's getting the help he needs, but I'm not holding my breath. My main focus now is on my own family and making sure we're all okay. It's been a rough few days, but I feel like we're starting to get a handle on things. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for telling my parents about my sister's postpartum depression diagnosis? I, 23 years old, have a sister, 28 years old, who has 2 kids and is going through a divorce. Before my sister had kids, she was the most fun and smartest person around. She had hobbies, took classes every week to learn new skills, and had a close group of friends she has had since middle school. I looked up to and admired her so much. But she hasn't been that way in years. Ever since she had kids, she has become a personality-less blob. She got married at 21 and they had their kids at 24 and 25. Marriage isn't what changed her. Before the kids, she was still her fun and eccentric self. After she had her first child, she stayed at home for 6 months and then returned to her job as an art teacher at a country club where she made amazing money and could choose her own hours. She quit after a class, saying she couldn't bear to be away from her baby. Whenever my other sisters and parents would offer to watch the baby so my sister and her husband could go on dates, she refused, saying no one can take care of the baby like her. She then got pregnant again, on purpose. She wanted them a year apart. I'm not joking when I say she hasn't left the house to do anything without her babies. She canceled on every plan her friends, who, by the way, half are moms, made for the past 2.5 years, and then got shocked they no longer talk to her. She gets upset her husband still has friends and hobbies outside of being a dad. Yet when she's offered the same leisure, she declines. She let herself go physically. She will brag about not showering for days, but her kids will always look good. She only posts and reposts stuff about being a mom. She brags about not having a life outside of being a mom. She brags about never missing an hour with her kids. She looks down on women who are moms that go out and have fun. She has missed all of our family birthdays and events if she can't bring her kids with her. It sucks to see my sister become this. I never saw her, of all people, letting being a mom become her whole identity and personality. I get it. It's a major life change, and she won't be the same person she was before kids. But having no hobbies, no friends, and ignoring your husband just because you're a mom isn't normal. We've spoken to her so often about this. She just says that this is her new self, and if we don't like it, to get over it. Her husband filed for divorce a month ago, and I think that was my sister's reality check. When she called us in a FaceTime group chat crying, we all just looked at each other and made a face like, "Are you serious?" Our parents included. She told us that he wants a divorce because he wants his old wife back, and that she's changed for the worse instead of the better. and that he should be grateful she dedicates her whole life to her kids, since other moms would pester the dads to be more involved. Our dad spoke up and asked her when the last time they went on a date or put their marriage first. She said that they're parents now, so their kids come first, and that is no longer important. We all disagreed and said that just because she's a mom doesn't mean her other relationship dynamics don't matter. My mom offered to watch the kids for the weekend, so maybe they could have a moment alone, and she got very upset, saying that she would never leave her kids with someone else just so she can have fun, and hung up. A few days ago, my sister asked me to come over and bring her groceries since her car tire was flat. I came inside and we talked about life as her kids napped. She kept talking about the kids, what they did today and yesterday and blah blah. I asked her about the divorce and how she feels, and she said that he wants 50/50 custody and no way that's happening since she's never spent a second away from her kids, and that she wants our parents to pay for the best divorce lawyer to ensure she gets full custody. I said, "You mean the parents you've never allowed to babysit your kids?" She got upset and said that doesn't matter. I told her it does. She's refused to allow herself to have a village that so many moms would want and looks at other women that will let someone babysit their kids as a bad mom. She said it's called being a good mom, and I said no, making your entire personality being a mom doesn't make you a good mom, and that she wouldn't be having a divorce if she was a better wife, she wouldn't be friendless if she was a better friend, and her family wouldn't be distant if she was a better sister-daughter. She started crying, and I felt bad and left. All my siblings and parents are on my side, saying it's the truth she needed to hear. She hasn't talked to me since. Am I the jerk? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, but honestly, the instant personality shift makes me wonder how much mental illness comes into play. I was your sister once. Never let my kids out of my sight. Never did anything without my kids. Became a work-at-home mom so I didn't have to send them to daycare, etc. Everyone thought I was a helicopter mom. In reality, I had raging, untreated anxiety and depression that was exacerbated with postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, PPD, PPA, and I would have a literal breakdown if I couldn't check on my kids 24/7. Treatment saved my marriage and my life, but unfortunately, you also can't force her to seek treatment if it is an anxiety issue. It wasn't until I ended up having intense, dark thoughts about ending my own life that I acknowledged the problem. I'd be straight with her and tell her she needs to seek a mental health evaluation, because some of what she says is heavily concerning and could very well cost her all unsupervised custody if she doesn't start treating herself. Comment 2. The fact that she said she'd rather be dead is concerning. She needs therapy. No judge will completely take the dad's rights away, and she will have to spend time away from her children. Honestly, it sounds like she will unalive herself if she doesn't get whatever delusion she is living. Or I've also read many horror stories where the moms will unalive the kids and themselves when they don't get what they want from a judge's arrangement. She sounds dangerous. Edit. The father of those children needs to demand a mental health eval, so they can really see how unhealthy she is as well. Now, for the update. Thanks for reading my last post. So, a lot has happened in the past 2 weeks, and it's been pretty up and down of emotions and events. First off, my sister finally reached out to me after our argument. She called me late one night and I could tell she had been crying. She apologized for how she reacted and said she needed some time to think about what I said. She admitted that she felt lost and didn't know who she was anymore outside of being a mom. It was a small step, but it felt like progress. A few days later, my sister's husband, soon-to-be ex, called me. He wanted to talk about the divorce and custody arrangements. He sounded exhausted and defeated. He said he still loved my sister but couldn't live like this anymore. He wanted to know if I could help mediate a conversation between them. I agreed, hoping it might help them find some common ground. We arranged a meeting at my parents' house. My mom and dad took the kids out for the day so my sister and her husband could talk without distractions. It was tense at first, but eventually they started opening up. My sister admitted that she was scared of losing her identity if she wasn't constantly with the kids. Her husband confessed that he felt neglected and unimportant. They both cried and hugged, and for a moment it seemed like they might find a way to work things out. But then my sister dropped a news. She revealed that she had been hiding a secret from everyone, including her husband. She had been diagnosed with postpartum depression after her second child was born, but never sought treatment. She was afraid of being judged and thought she could handle it on her own. This revelation changed everything. Her husband was shocked and hurt that she hadn't told him, but he also felt guilty for not noticing the signs. This new information forced a hard choice on me. My sister begged me not to tell our parents about her diagnosis, fearing they would see her as weak or incapable. But I knew they needed to know to understand her behavior and support her properly. I was torn between keeping her secret and doing what I thought was best for her and the family. In the end, I decided to tell my parents. They were initially upset that my sister hadn't confided in them, but they quickly shifted to being supportive. They encouraged her to seek therapy and offered to help with the kids so she could focus on her mental health. My sister was hesitant at first, but eventually agreed to see a therapist. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings continued. My sister's husband agreed to delay the custody battle until she was in a better place mentally. He moved out but stayed close by to help with the kids. It was a difficult transition, but it seemed like the best option for everyone involved. As my sister started therapy, she began to change. She slowly reconnected with some of her old friends and even started taking a painting class once a week. It was like seeing glimpses of the person she used to be. She still had a long way to go, but it was a start. During this time, I also learned more about my sister's past struggles. She confided in me about how she had always felt pressure to be perfect, especially after becoming a mom. She felt like she had to prove herself constantly, and that any sign of weakness would make her a failure. This pressure had been building for years, and the postpartum depression had pushed her to her breaking point. One night, as we were talking, she shared a story from her childhood that I had never heard before. When she was in middle school, she had a close friend who struggled with mental health issues. My sister had tried to help her, but the friend eventually moved away, and they lost touch. My sister felt like she had failed her friend and vowed never to let anyone down again. This experience had shaped her approach to motherhood, making her overly protective and unwilling to ask for help. As my sister continued to open up, I realized how much she had been carrying on her own. It made me understand her actions better, even if I didn't agree with them. It also made me more determined to support her through this difficult time. The rest of the family also started to come around. My parents were more understanding and patient, and my other siblings reached out more often to check on her. It felt like we were all coming together to help her heal. But there were still challenges ahead. My sister's husband was struggling with his own feelings of betrayal and guilt. He wanted to support her, but also needed time to process everything. They decided to continue with the divorce, but agreed to co-parent amicably. It was a painful decision, but they both felt it was the best way to move forward. As for me, I had to navigate my own feelings of guilt and responsibility. I questioned whether I had done the right thing by telling our parents, and whether I could have handled things differently. But seeing my sister start to heal made me believe that I had made the right choice. So that's where things stand now. My sister is in therapy, working on her mental health and trying to rediscover herself outside of being a mom. Her husband is adjusting to his new role as a co-parent, and the rest of the family is rallying around them both. It's been a tough journey, but I feel hopeful for the first time in a long while. Thanks for reading. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.